Motion seconded by Adam. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion. All in favor of the motion by roll call vote?
Director McLaren?
Yes.
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Recca?
Yes.
Director Urosic?
Yes.
Director Paris?
Yes. Motion's carried unanimously. We're now on to the advisory committee report. And James, are you out there? Anybody reporting on the advisory committee report? Okay, it's in our agenda packet. If everybody has read it, we will move on. And that brings us to item 8, committee reports. And I believe we have an administrative committee report. Is that correct, Adam and Derek?
Yes.
And who's going to discuss the administrative committee report?
Matt, do you want to do that or?
Yeah, I can. Good morning, this is Matt.
Morning, Matt.
Morning. So the administrative committee made up of directors Ariki and Urosic met earlier this week. We went through our normal review of the payment of bills, the financials, etc. But we also had our first meeting to discuss the enforcement as directed at the last board meeting. And we had legal counsel on the phone as well as the Watermaster engineer. And we talked through the various processes that we want to develop as it relates to enforcement. And the committee thought that the best approach would be to put together a written document as far as explaining the various processes when it comes to enforcement of past due assessments, non-meter compliance, past due replacement water assessments, and then, of course, the big one being individuals that are pumping outside the judgment. So we are working on that with legal counsel, and our plan is to bring that back to the next administrative committee for a review and recommendation to the full board.
Thank you, Matt. Adam, Derek, anything to add?
No,
Go ahead.
No, that's it. I think
Okay.
we covered everything.
Very good. That brings us to item 9, consideration possible action on certifying the delinquent assessment list. And Craig, would you like to, or Matt?
Yeah, I can kick this off.
Matt, go ahead.
So based on our rules and regulations, it states that once a year, at this time of year, we certify the delinquent assessment list. These are past due assessments owed to the Watermaster. So we're prepared to do that today, but then late yesterday we had an inquiry from one of the parties that is questioning their past due assessment. And so we'd like to table this item until the October meeting, until we've had time to look at the detail and make sure it's accurate before the board certifies it.
Very good. So we'll just put this item over till our October meeting?
Yes, thank you.
Very good. And then that brings us to item 10, consideration possible action on modifying the start time for regular board meetings. Matt, you want to?
Yeah, I can kick this off. So we, Director Urosic put an inquiry out requesting that we consider changing the start time of the regular board meetings. In the rules and regs, it says that we can do that as a board. If the board approves it 5-0, that we identify a date and time. So the request by Director Urosic is that we change the start time of the Watermaster meetings to 1 p.m. or sometime thereabouts.
Matt, may I please? I thought we discussed to hold off in that discussion for future meetings when the time comes or when the need arises for that.
So yeah, just just to add a little bit more, the 10 a.m. works for Director Urosic with the meetings being remote or teleconference. But if and when we go back to meeting in person, that's going to be the challenge for him to start at 10 a.m. So when the time comes to where we're meeting in person again, that's when we would have to consider the request to changing the start time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And Derek, any other comments on this?
No, I guess my comment would be is in our administrative committee meeting, we did discuss this as Adam brought up and Matt did. My request is trying to be proactive, understanding the timing. We do not know when that happens, but have the board and staff and public aware of that. I understand that this has been a long-standing time and commitment by all the individuals that are involved, and I'd appreciate this request of at least evaluating it when the time is needed to.
Okay, and I think as long as we are able to do remote meetings, we're good with staying at this time. And the moment we decide to go to live meetings again, we'll bring this up at least the meeting before. Would that be okay, Derek?
That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for the consideration.
Sure. And just so we quickly can go through it, I'll just ask the other board members if they would have any concerns so that you're aware of what concerns might be out there. Kathy, would you have any concerns about changing the meeting to 1 p.m.?
No problem.
Okay. And Adrienne?
I have no problem.
Okay. And I would not have a problem changing to 1 p.m. at the time that we need to do that. I would like to keep it at this time until that comes along, but that's just a quick assessment of where we're at. Adam, would you have any concerns at the 1 p.m. time once we get to that point?
Yeah, what I have indicated that it's not impossible to do, but we schedule the meeting for the time we did because of other commitments that I have during the board meetings, other meetings. So there has to be a little bit of shoveling of a lot of things to do so. My preference, of course, to keep it at this time, since we are used to this time. It's on the calendars. The public is used to this time until there is an absolute need to do so, which, Derek gratefully agreed to that. And then, who knows? Things may change, and we'll see what happens then.
Okay. Good discussion. Any further discussion on this item? And very quickly, any discussion from the public? Would any of the public have any major concerns with the time change? Not that we're doing it now, but in the future. Or the public? Mike Slide?
They have to unmute themselves.
Okay, you would have to unmute yourself if you do have a comment. Okay, hearing no comments, we'll move on. We're on consideration possible action on transfer application. And
It's going to be Kate.
Yep. Good morning. This is Kate. I can take this one from Todd Groundwater.
thank you.
There's one transfer application on today's agenda. It starts on page 32 of the packet. Craig and Martha Van Dam would like to transfer 1 acre-foot per year of permanent production rights and 1,000 acre-feet of carryover water to White Fence Farms Mutual Water Company number 3. Craig and Martha Van Dam are Exhibit 4 parties and have the production rights and carryover water for this transfer. White Fence Farms Mutual Water Company number 3 is a non-stipulating supporting landowner party with 4 acre-feet per year of production rights. They're buying the 1 acre-foot per year permanent production rights to become an Exhibit 4 party and to be able to carry over the transferred 1,000 acre-feet of carryover water. This transfer is for investment purposes, and no extraction point has been identified, so no material injury analysis can be conducted at this point. White Fence Farms number 3 is already a party to the judgment, so they don't need to intervene to become a party. However, as a non-stipulating party, they are not entitled to certain benefits of the stipulation, including carryover water. Therefore, we believe that they need to become a stipulating party and are not sure how they can do this except for intervention. White Fence Farms number 3, non-stipulating production rights of 4 acre-feet per year will remain non-stipulating, supporting landowner rights. And those rights cannot be transferred and carried over. So, if this is approved, they're going to have 2 pots of rights that will be treated separately. So we recommend approval of this application on the condition that White Fence Farms number 3 successfully intervenes into the judgment, and that a new point of extraction or transfer application is submitted in the future before the water is produced and is shown not to cause a material injury.
Thank you, Kate. And I think, Craig, you had some comments on this?
Yeah, I've talked to Kate about this. The problem is that White Fence Farms, by virtue of the judgment, is a non-stipulating party and not able to have the benefit of transfers or carryover. So they need to change their status, and we have not had this specific request before. They're not a non-party that needs to intervene, nor do they need to intervene to become a party, because they already are a party with the right to produce groundwater 4 acre-feet a year. So it really is going to be in their court to ask the court to essentially have them become a stipulating party or have the status of a stipulating party so that they can use the transfer and carryover benefits from the judgment. My recommendation was that, first of all, the resolution that's being asked of the board on page 29 and 30 is not correct, because it talks about them needing to intervene as a party to the judgment. It's not as a party to the judgment. There already are. So I would suggest some edits to that resolution and put it over to next month, and also welcome communication with White Fence Farms about how they can best change their status to that of a stipulating party. I'm reluctant for us to be giving legal advice to parties about how to change their status under the judgment. So I'm not talking about providing them legal opinions on this, but if they can engage their counsel with us in this next month, we can have a better idea of exactly what the road ahead is for White Fence Farms to use this carryover and transfer right. So my suggestion is, I haven't had a chance. I've edited the resolution, but it's not available to get in front of the board right now. We put this over a month. Seeing that there's no material injury analysis that's being done anyway. It's for investment purposes, and we can streamline it to see what the issues really are.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Is there anybody on the line from White Fence Farms that wants to, you'd have to unmute and have any discussion about this?
This is John Eucaston.
Hi, John. Go ahead.
Yeah, the attorney, I want to clarify things and the board. This is White Fence Farms 3. This is not White Fence Farms 1 and 2. And I have no problems with them trying to get water, but they're not part of the Antelope Valley United Mutual Group. So I'd appreciate it when you're discussing them to make sure you address them as White Fence Farms number 3, not 1 and 2.
Very good point. That's so noted. I noted that White Fence Farms has got a overlying production right on Exhibit 4, and that is totally separate from White Fence Farms Mutual Water Company number 3. And that was my reference. Very, very good, astute point. I intended to say number 3. I'll be more specific going forward.
John, thank you for that clarification. Anybody from White Fence Farms number 3 that would like to comment at this point? Okay, hearing none, we will move this item to our next agenda for October. And at this point, that brings us to the administrator's report.
Good morning again. This is Matt. Only thing I have to report is that we're working on the budget for calendar year 2022. So we
Great.
plan to present that to the advisory committee at the October meeting.
And getting new production, and they are wanting to move forward now. So that is now reactivated, and we've added that 1 acre foot to 2018. Similarly, in 2021, we had one party that had approved 5 acre feet of new production, and that party is now moving forward. So we have added that 5 acre feet to our new production table for 2021. And then finally, at the August board meeting, we approved an additional 5 acre feet per year to the Bible Holiness Church. And so that 5 is on there as well. So the total has changed from the August by 11 acre feet a year. And I wanted to just clarify that because last board meeting, we only approved 5 acre feet a year. So those are the changes that have been made to the new production table, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Phyllis. Are there any questions of Phyllis?
No.
No. Board, rest of the board, no questions? Anything? Any questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the general counsel's report. Craig?
Yes, an update on some matters. I'll start with the third item, update on motions filed with the court. We're still seeking a hearing date on our enforcement motions as to 2 delinquent assessment parties. We don't have a date yet. The motion's prepared, ready to go to be filed. We're working with the court on an appropriate date. We did have a hearing Monday, this past Monday, with the court, where the court approved our amendments to the rules and regulations, particularly with respect to transfers and new production rights. That was granted by the court. There was no opposition, and order will be entered that those are now official amendments to the rules and regulations. There is no real update on the appellate situation with Phelan. We submitted our responsive brief that's part of your packet at pages 50 to 91 so that you can see what the arguments are that are going to be presented to the court or are in front of the court in part now. We're waiting next up for the reply brief from Phelan that's due at the end of the month. And finally, the board asked for comments from general counsel and an opinion about whether the board has authority to adopt a policy position on cannabis. I think it's best to, this memo is in the board packet at page 48. And it was not provided to the advisory committee, which I'd like to do before we discuss it, to get input from the advisory committee and give people an adequate time to consider the opinion in that memo. So it was not provided to the advisory committee, and we'll do that for the next meeting next month. And this board can decide whether it wants to adopt this memo as a policy of the board or not act on it, or how it wishes to proceed. Those are the 3 items of update for the board.
Thank you, Craig. Any comments, discussion? Any from the board?
Yeah,
Go
this
ahead,
is did any of the other parties file support our motion for opinion for Phelan Opinion Hills?
I don't recall that we got a joinder I don't believe they did. We provided the briefing a couple of weeks ago, and I just don't recall, Adam.
Okay.
I had phone call inquiries. I just don't recall seeing a formal joinder.
Thank you, Craig and Adam.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, we'll move on to item 15, board members' requests for future agenda items. Board, do you have any requests for future agenda items?
Well, I'd like to see the presentation for the state water project.
Yes, Adam, this is Matt. So we were prepared to give that presentation to the advisory committee this month, but due to a lack of participants at that meeting, it got pushed till October. So we plan on presenting that to the advisory committee in October, and then also the board in October.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments? So that will be on our next agenda, Adam. Anything else?
This is Director Recca. I just wanted to make sure if I was understanding Craig Barton right, that he's getting this letter in front of the advisory board, and then it will come back onto our minutes for next meeting, correct?
That's correct. The memorandum regarding the cannabis.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome. Any further discussion? Any other questions?
Rob, Julie Kyle.
Yes.
Can I just ask for an update? Maybe I should have done this at the start of the meeting. In
Sure.
regards to all of these letters that are going back and forth between McLaughlin and Judge Komar, can we get an update on this? What's going on?
About the conflict of interest?
Yes.
I see.
Certainly if Craig is prepared to give a comment, or I can put it on the next agenda.
Yeah, we can put it on the next agenda. All I know is that the attorney's fee award in the Wood matter was appealed by both sides. LA County District 40, the primary party, and the Wood class lawyer and parties on the other side. The Court of Appeal affirmed in part and denied in part, and remanded it back to Judge Komar for some findings on attorney's fees award. And as part of that process, the counsel for the Wood class began taking the position that Judge Komar has a conflict of interest because of work that he had done as a mediator / consultant for the law firm that represents LA County District 40. There's been back and forth on that, several letters. And as it stands right now, I don't think it's formally teed up through any body definitive authority to resolve at this point, but it seems to me it's going in that direction to get a resolution of whether Judge Komar has a conflict of interest in presiding over not just the remand potentially, but the case in general going forward.
And what is your opinion on that, Craig?
Well, I don't have an opinion. We're not a party to it.
It wouldn't affect any of us in any way in our adjudication?
Well, it would potentially having another judge to bring our motions in front of would be very disruptive.
I would think.
Very disruptive in general to have a new judicial officer in light of Judge Komar's experience with this case and knowledge of it. It would be a big push to get somebody new up to speed to handle the various motions that are brought before the court in this case.
Hey, thank you, Craig.
Julie, thank you for bringing that up. That was it. And Craig, thanks for the comment.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments before we leave item 15?
Well, this will be the shortest meeting we have ever had.
Okay. No other comments? Then we're on item 16. Meetings adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. And it is 10:28.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. Have a good day.